Welcome back to our Golden 20s podcast. My name is Tegan and I'm joined with my co-host Sadie. And we're here this week to talk all about your home and how to refresh your home, give your home the new vibe. And we wanted to talk about this because one, Sadie's been talking about how she wants to move, but it's not really realistic because she has such a good deal with her apartment, and I just moved, and so we're very home focused, I'll say, for right now. So we've got a whole episode about our tips and tricks for how to refresh your space. But before we get into that, I thought we could do a connection card. This card is, what was the biggest mistake you've ever made? What did you learn from it?
I don't know. I think it's so cliche to say, but I feel like in the moment I always fear making the wrong move or making a mistake. But something I've learned is that every time I've been faced with like adversity or done something and then regretted it, it always works out that way for a reason, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm now very much, well, it's a constant work in progress, but I very much believe everything will work out as it's meant to work out. And even if it doesn't go to plan, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like sometimes you need to take the long way to get to your destination kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm not really thinking of a mistake, or I don't have the frame of mind of like, oh, that was a huge mistake.
Yeah.
That was like, something that keeps me up at night to this day. I feel like looking back, I'm always like, okay, makes sense why that happened that way.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of the mistakes that come to mind for me were like caused by me being too like passive. And like if I'm thinking about like work mistakes where I'm like, I should just stand my own ground. Like I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's kind of what comes to mind for me. Or it's like other people made mistakes, but I was in charge of those people. And I'm like, I knew how to do it the right way. I should have just been more like, I don't know. I should have been acting more like a mediocre white man at my job instead of being like, well, I don't want to be pushy or anything. So that's something, you know, that was a big theme of my year. If anyone listened to us talk about our like themes for this year, mine was to be a badass bitch. And that was very much in line with that, where I'm like, I know what I'm talking about, so I should just like be more forceful with it and be like, no, you're on my team. Do this the right way. So yeah, those are a lot of the mistakes that are sort of coming to mind. I have regrets, but I don't necessarily think of them as mistakes. So
okay, that's fair. Yeah. When you said work mistakes, there's definitely one thing that will haunt me for the rest of my career. And again, it's like I made a mistake. I basically begged my boss to fire me. And it was because I set up like paid social ads, and I set up a daily budget instead of a lifetime budget. It was on a Friday, and it could have ran. So without any context, it was a $25,000 budget. So I set this, instead of to run for a month, it was set up for a daily budget to run for a month. And then, logged off Friday, whatever. Yeah. And then when I logged in Monday, my boss was like, hey, just so you know, we caught this Friday, because it was like in Facebook, and our Facebook reps were like, there's a crazy amount of money being spent on your account right now. We think something's wrong. And they flagged it to my boss. So he caught it before he logged off on Friday. And like, it didn't end up being a big problem. But I was like, oh my God, you need to fire me. Like, this is the worst mistake ever. Like, I could have spent like $75,000 just over that weekend when the like entire budget was $25,000. But that's probably like the biggest mistake I've made in my career. And it didn't go that as badly as it could have gone, I guess. And luckily I didn't get fired. My boss at the time was so chill. He was like, honestly, just try not to let it happen again. I was like, I will do this to make sure it doesn't happen again. Like this. He was like, if there's a way to control it, great. Otherwise, just don't do it again. And I'm like, I swear I never will. And now I manage a team, and I like have told them all that story because I'm like, listen, I have an attention for detail, but I guess that was my one off day. And now I'm like, okay, no mistakes ever again. But
yeah,
anyways.
I feel like, a lot of the mistakes that I see in the day to day are like little things like spelling errors, or I don't know.
Yeah.
There are certain people on my team where I'm just like, oh, we're still making this mistake, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I think the only mistake I have, it doesn't keep me up at night, but I will think about it like once a month and be like, what the hell? So it was when I was at my first like adult job, and we had like hired a company to write music for the commercial that we were working on. And so we had to finalize the commercials, send it to the music people so that they could write the music. And I can't even remember what the company was called, but it was called like Grayson something. Like it might have been Grayson Matters or whatever. And that was the music company. And there was a problem with one of the files. And so they emailed me on like a Saturday morning and were like, hey, could you just resend this file? And so I resent it, but in the email I said like, hey, Grayson, instead of like the guy's name who worked at the company. Like I just had like a total brain fart moment. And I didn't catch it until it had already sent. It was one of those where like, you read the email that just sent and you're like, oh my God, there's a mistake in it. So then I was like, well, I need to email. So I emailed him again and was like, oh, LOL, sorry, I typed your company name instead of your name. And I was just like, what the hell is going on? And it's like not even a big deal, but I think about that all the time because I'm just like, what was happening? Like, why did you do that? So
I feel like that's a common thing where you're just like going so fast, or you're just so focused on what.
And I'm on my phone and like,
and you're like so focused on like the content of the email that you're writing. You just need to get your ideas down or whatever. I feel that's a common thing. Or my least favorite is getting people's pronouns incorrectly, like addressing people like Mr., Mrs., like anything like that. It's like you could have just taken 3 seconds to read my pronouns in my signature or something like that. But email etiquette. I make typos. Things like that. But when the question was first read, I was thinking of like a life-changing mistake that I've made that like altered the course of my life. But
that's where I started. But then I was like, there are things I regret, but I don't think of them as mistakes. So I'm like,
what do you regret? And
I regret, like going to Fanshawe. I did a postgrad there. Okay. I regret that because one, it was very expensive, and I just found it wasn't what was being promised. So the reason I went to Fanshawe is they came to the university I was at, and they did like a whole recruitment. They spent like a whole day there. And so like, of course it sounded good because like it was this person's entire job to get people to sign up. And I did. And then it just wasn't what I thought. And I was just like, this is like a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. I didn't really feel like I learned much. Now, I don't think it's a mistake because like, who knows? Maybe that led me here. Like, I have no idea. And I made a lot of really good friends that I met there. So, like, I don't really think that makes it a mistake. Mm-hmm. But I regret doing that. And I'm like, maybe if I had just gotten started in, like, working, things would be different. I don't know. It's hard to say. So that's a regret. And then just about, like, the way people have treated me in the past, where I'm like, I shouldn't have let people treat me that way. Or I shouldn't have let things affect me the way that they did. And it's like, is it a mistake to have like said yes to that job? A mistake to let that person like treat me that way or say those things to me? I don't know that it's necessarily a mistake because it's what like makes me me, but I regret it at the same time.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like my like frame of mind is you can only handle a situation the best you can in the moment, and it's so easy to look back and be like, oh, I should have done this differently, but it's like you didn't I say this all the time, but you didn't know then what you know now, you know? So it's like you dealt with those situations the best you could, but you've since grown to realize that was wrong. And now you won't accept that kind of treatment for other people. You know, it's like you kind of had to go through it to learn and then grow from it. So I don't know. That's how I feel like I tend to look at things, but it's taken me a while to get there. That is for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I feel like they're not mistakes.
Like mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah. What an interesting question.
Yeah. I'll have to keep thinking about it. Be like, am I forgetting something? Like the work mistake, my family, like my whole family knows about it. They like still tease me about it. I made this mistake literally like 2019, like years and years ago. But yeah, that's definitely one of my biggest mistakes.
Yeah. I've had people on my team make similar mistakes, but the opposite and not catch it until the campaign was over. And yeah, that is not good because these people are paying you to spend their money and then you don't spend their money. You have to give the money back.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. But it happens.
It happens. We learn from our mistakes, I guess. But
yeah. Okay. Well, I really like this pink category, may I just say. Better than the other two categories. I'm like, it's getting deep into the nitty gritty. But anyways, we're not here to talk about mistakes. We're here to talk about refreshing your space.
Yes. So like you were saying, Tag, I feel like our homes are just top of mind for both of us. But even for our listeners, I feel like fall is when you start to move indoors. You are maybe experiencing some colder weather, shorter days, and I feel like that's when people start to get into hibernation mode. So I feel like fall is the perfect season to refresh your space and get it ready for a cozy fall winter ahead when you will be spending a lot of time indoors. We've been taking like a budget friendly approach to some of these episodes, knowing that it's not realistic for most of us to just open up West Elm's website, order everything that we like on the website, and have it delivered to our house like next week. You know, I think when it comes to your home, we say this when it comes to your closet, when it comes to like literally anything, I feel like at least my first instinct is to be like, okay, I need to like buy something to fix the problem, but a lot of the times you can work with what you already have, and I feel like that is definitely the case for refreshing your home as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think the main thing for me when I'm trying to refresh a space is to start with like a declutter and a deep clean, and the idea of like shopping your home. And so what that means is if you're like decluttering a room, you're taking like everything off the walls, you're taking everything out of the closets. This is how I declutter, which is a little psycho, but it's how I roll. And it's the way they tell you to do it in the life-changing magic of tidying up. So I take everything and I put it in a big pile in the center of the room. And then you pile everything together. So it's like if you're doing the kitchen, you will have all of your kitchen scissors together. And then you go through the whole system of, does this spark joy? If it doesn't, where does it need to go? Does it need to be donated or does it need to be thrown away? And the reason I love putting everything in a pile is it shows you how much stuff you have. So like you have all of your scissors in one pile. It's a lot easier to be like, okay, this pair that doesn't cut so good anymore, it can go because I can see there's 8 other pairs of scissors right here. Right. So starting from that space, because having less stuff always makes your space seem cleaner and bigger. And then if you're done that element of things, like I said, shop your home and figure out, okay, I really want a piece of art that will go on this wall. What do you already have? Like, you'll be surprised if you're like, oh, I really want a candle to go here to really complete this. Like, go around your house and find a candle, because I guarantee you have like random stuff sitting in random spots. And when you try them somewhere new, it might work better than you even thought.
Yeah, 100%. I also love a good declutter session. I think in our past home-related episodes, I've talked about how I've gone the route of like organizing all of the drawers in my house or the closets. I have like little baskets on all the shelves in my closets, but it just is such a, I guess it makes me feel like fresh and organized. So it makes me appreciate my home more, but it also just makes like the systems in my house work for me better, because I feel like that's another thing. I can get really fed up with something when it's not working. So it's like, okay, if it's just like my system isn't working. If it's like every time I go to do laundry, I need to carry my laundry soap and all of my supplies down to the laundry room, which is in the basement when I'm on the top floor of like a 3-story walk up. It's like, okay, why don't I just like consolidate all my laundry things into a basket that I can just carry it all at once, like I can improve the system. So I feel like that is a big thing for organization for me. And then deep cleaning, there's a few tasks that I only do like once or twice a year. And when I do them, I feel so much better, where I'm like, oh my God, I actually love my apartment again. And just a few weeks ago, actually, I don't even know how I got started, but I was deep cleaning my living room, and it's like my living room, dining room entryway is all kind of like an open space. And I was like, I want to deep clean, like dust the baseboards, kind of like wipe the walls, wipe the ceilings. Like these aren't things I do in my weekly cleaning resets, for instance. But then somehow I got like scrubbing the windows, and I like was popping the windows out, washing the screens. And then I have like a huge window in my living room. And ever since I did that, I'm like, oh my God, my living room just looks, like you were saying, Tag, like it just seems so clean and so much bigger and just like feels so fresh in here. All because I took an afternoon on a rainy Saturday to wash that window finally. So definitely don't underestimate the power of a good clean and a good declutter session. It goes a very long way.
Yeah, 100%. Something that my husband is obsessed with, which is weird, but okay, it's fine, is he loves moving furniture around. Like nothing gets him more pumped up than like trying to figure out like a new furniture configuration for a room. And this is, again, something that can really like make a room feel brand new.
Yeah, I remember that was always a thing when I was like a kid, rearranging my bedroom. And it would like, usually I needed my dad's help to like move like bookshelves and whatever. But it was always like, I feel like I only did it maybe like once a year, maybe like twice a year at most. And it was always a thing like, I'm going to move my room around. And yeah, it really does make your space feel brand new. I think something that I've been practicing a lot is just swapping the little things. So I have like really good big furniture pieces that I don't necessarily need to replace. Sometimes I'm like, oh, it'd be nice to get a new, I don't know, couch or whatever. But at the end of the day, I don't really need one. So why don't I just replace the less expensive things that'll make those bigger purchases feel new? So for instance, this might look like replacing the throw pillows on my couch or the throw blankets on my couch. Might also be things like rugs, curtains, even like the bedding on your bed, hand towels or tea towels in the kitchen, in your bathroom, like all of the more decorative things. I feel like once you change those up, it just gives your space a completely different look and feel. And it's way more, like I was saying, budget friendly than replacing your couch, your dining table, all of your dining chairs. Like it's a little bit more budget friendly.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think like new bedding makes your bedroom feel like an entirely new room. And this is my pro tip. I love IKEA bedding, and a lot of like the bedding that you see on Pinterest is actually from IKEA. I know because I'm a psycho who knows all the IKEA bedding, and so I'm always like, oh, there it is. So, and I have, when I got married, got gifted a lot of really nice bedding, like bedding that cost multiple hundreds of dollars, and it's all gotten holes in it. Meanwhile, my handy dandy like $40 thumbs down. My handy dandy $40 IKEA bedding is still going nice and strong, and it like washes really nice. Like if there's stains on it or whatever, it comes out really easily. So wanted to mention that. And then I also wanted to say along the lines of like swapping out the small things. Sometimes I find that just like redoing like your coffee table decor in your living room can make a really big difference, or like anywhere where you have those kind of decor items. So it's like swapping out, like getting a new coffee table book or a new candle or a new coaster, and then just swapping out the little decorative pieces. But like you said, keeping like the big coffee table, because obviously that's a bigger purchase.
Yeah. And I think this applies to like wall art, frame photos, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like my family has a lot of like family photos and family and friends photos throughout their houses. I was looking around my apartment and I was like, I actually don't have too many of those. However, the ones I do have are quite dated. However, the frames are still good, you know? So it's like you could just freshen those up, and then it's another way to just like freshen up your decor. And I think if you are looking for budget friendly ways to freshen up whatever's hanging on your walls in your photo frames, I've mentioned this before because I do it all the time, but I'll mention it again. And that's just buying prints off Etsy. You can often get prints, even like sets of prints. So it's like, I don't know, vintage farm scenescapes or like something like that. You could get like a whole collage essentially of different prints that fit that aesthetic. And then you can just print them wherever you print your photos near you and then put them in those nice frames that you already have. Just another fun way to spruce things up. And then this goes for whatever, if you have like shelves or any other surfaces, like you were saying, tag coffee tables, like I think it's just re-merchandising essentially all of those spaces across your home.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a person who like collects a lot of like little paper goods too, and then I end up framing a lot of those as well. So like
Yeah.
actually have a postcard from when we went to New York that I have like sitting aside because I'm like, I got this from a restaurant for free, and then I'm like, I should just frame it because then it's interesting. Like if you have people over and they ask like, oh, what's that art of? You can be like, oh, it's when I went to lunch in New York with Sadie and we saw this guy from The Walking Dead and blah blah blah. So I always
that one's really got a story
idea
behind it.
Yeah, exactly. These are the kinds of things you gotta hold on to. I've also just discovered the concept of junk journaling, and I'm like, there's never been something better for me. So now I'm like, what do I put in the junk journal? What do I put on the walls? But I just love the idea of like collecting things in your life. And then this leans into the like, does it spark joy? And then every piece of like art in your house has like a little story attached to it, which I think is kind of cute. But you mentioned thrifting. I'm a big thrift gal, especially for house items, because a lot of times new, these can be very expensive, but at the thrift store, they tend to be very cheap. So one that comes to mind is glassware. So like wine glasses or cocktail glasses, anything like that, you can usually get for very cheap at a thrift store. And this can be nice if you have a bar cart and you're like, you know what? My like cheapy IKEA glasses I got when I moved out are not doing it on the bar cart. A lot of times if you go to a thrift store, you can get an entire set of like crystal glasses that can look really nice. I've gotten like those margarita glasses with the little cactus stems, or like I collect the glasses that they use in Mad Men, and I've found a whole bunch of those at the thrift store. So you never know. Same for like trinket dishes. I have a lot of those around that are all thrifted. Ashtrays. I think like if you're having a party, it's always nice to have an ashtray in your outdoor space because like someone probably smokes. And then if you get like a really cool vintage one from the thrift store, it can be cool. Candle holders, all that kind of stuff. And it can be a lot more affordable than like you said, going to West Elm or Crate and Barrel to try and find new of all this stuff.
Yeah, totally. I think my last point on like the decor piece I wanted to call out is decorating seasonally. And again, this is something that my mom did when I was growing up. She still does it to this day. So it just came naturally to me, and I think my sisters as well, but not everybody does this, so I thought I'd shout it out. And what I mean by decorating seasonally is I feel like it's common if you celebrate Christmas to set up your Christmas tree and have little like Christmas touches around your house, but you could do this for every season. And I typically really only do it through fall and Christmas, like I was just mentioning. So I have like a fall wreath that I hang on the door, and then a Christmas wreath I hang on the door. I have little like pumpkins and stuff that I put out on my shelves and all these places we were just talking about redecorating. So just like little touches for the season. But what I'm wanting to start to do is also bring this into like a bigger way where it's like replacing going back to like the whole like throw cushions on or throw pillows on my couch. What is the word I'm looking for? Like the cover on them, essentially getting seasonal ones for that, and just little things like that. I feel like you can use year and year again. Does that make sense? I don't know. You can use them again and again, year after year. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't need to buy them like, okay, it's Christmas, guess I need to go buy, new Christmas decor, or like, okay, it's spring, let's go get this. Like, I don't know. So that's what I'm thinking right now, where the covers I currently have on the throw pillows on my couch, I'm looking at them right now. I'm like, they're very like spring summery. So I want to replace them to freshen up my space, but I'm going to hang on to them. Like, I'm not going to donate them, and then I can bring them out when I want to refresh, or since they're like fun colors and stuff, I can bring them out in the spring, summer. So it doesn't necessarily need to be like, I feel like when you maybe think about decorating seasonally, you think of really like junky stuff and like stuff that maybe, I don't know, isn't like super aesthetic, but I feel like it can even just be like, maybe you have just like different colors you play around with in your space through different times of year, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like for me seasonally, it's like we have different like covers for our throw pillows, like different tea towels we use that are maybe seasonal, different like hand towels in the bathroom, like nothing major outside of like Christmas decorations and things like that, but just like little things. And a lot of them are like fall, winter, and then spring, summer. Same with bedding. So yeah, that's definitely a good point. I think getting into maybe some of the more like, I don't want to say handy because these are all quite easy to do, but I'm going to say handy things that I was thinking of. One is like replacing or swapping your light switch or outlet covers. And this, I feel like if you've never done this, maybe seems really difficult or like sketchy, but it's like one of the easiest things you can do. And my dad's an electrician, so I would know, but don't electrocute yourself. But you can find really, really nice covers. Sometimes you can find them thrifting, but even like the Anthropologie has like the most beautiful like light switch covers and outlet covers. And this is like such a way to elevate a room and make it look like you thought of everything. And it's completely renter friendly as long as you hang on to the old ones, or like you can throw them out and repurchase plain white outlet covers. But it's so easy. It can make it so that like you're bringing your style to every single room and is relatively affordable.
Yeah, I think another thing Anthropologie does well is like hardware. So if this is like knobs and handles, like replacing those on your kitchen cabinetry, your dresser, like anything like that, I feel like kind of changes things up. They even had door handles when I worked there. So you could literally like replace the door handles inside your home to your bathroom door. Like, it's just literally so many small things that have such a big impact. I think on the topic of lights, in specific, swapping light fixtures is another really great renter-friendly way to spruce up a space or make it more your own. This is something that I've only done once, I guess, in my house, but I'm now, since I'm in this big, like, okay, I want to like make my home feel new, the first thing I thought of was, let me replace all of these boring light fixtures throughout my entire house. So that's what I'm wanting to do. Light fixtures can be fairly expensive, but they don't have to be. And I feel like you can thrift even light fixtures, find them at flea markets, that sort of thing, or even looking on Etsy. Otherwise, you can find like good deals at Home Depot, that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Get rid of those boob lights. If you have any lights on your ceilings,
I do.
Like the flat boob ones.
I feel like that's well, I don't know.
It's like
maybe aren't
every
super
house
boob,
had that.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't know what boob lights are, you now will be unable to not see them as boobs from this point on. But yeah, they've got to go. I love that. And like you can sometimes get really good deals. Like if you're shopping the clearance section of hardware stores like Home Depot, sometimes you can get light fixtures for very cheap. So definitely a good thing to point out. Also painting. I feel like painting's not considered renter friendly, but like worst case scenario, you can always just paint it white again, assuming your house is already painted white, which most rentals are, at least in Toronto. So painting again it can be expensive, but if you're doing it yourself, it can be a somewhat affordable way to like spice things up. And especially if like you're only going to do an accent wall, you don't necessarily need the entire like gallon jug or however big it is. Like you can get the smaller size of cans, which can make it a lot more affordable.
Yeah, that's the exact route I'm taking. I'm finally painting. I've lived in this apartment going on 9 years in the spring, and I've talked about painting pretty much every single one of those years, and I haven't actually done it yet. But last weekend I bought paint, and to your point, Tag, I was like, I'm just going to do accent walls. I might paint my entire bedroom, TBD, but in my dining room, in my office, in my guest room, those were all rooms I wanted to paint. But I was like, I just don't want to fork out the money to paint every single wall in those rooms. So all of them are just getting an accent wall. And I feel like that is such a fun way. And then you can always add to it later. So if I decide, actually, this was a lot of fun and it, you know, I want to take it a step further, then I can go back and paint the rest of the walls another time when I have more money again or something like that. But I'm very excited to take on my painting journey. And I think this can also be a great way to update or refresh any furniture you have. So again, going back to like things like dressers or bookcases or anything that's just like wooden, essentially, I feel like giving it a fresh coat of paint or staining it differently, that could also be a way to bring new life to your existing furniture.
Yeah, definitely. And like our dining room table was my childhood dining room table. And it was that like 80s, 90s orange wood stain. And spend a weekend to just sand it off. I tried to use stripper, which they don't sell the good stripper here in Canada. So I don't know what's in that stripper, but you can only buy it in America. So it did take longer than I expected, but now it's going on 4 years where I've had the table and it's still looking good. So it can be a lot easier than you think. So definitely love that.
Yeah. I think the last thing on our list was just around plants. I feel like plants can also be a really great way to bring some life to your space and make it feel, I don't know, just a little bit more lively if you've been living there for a while or staring at the same decor and everything for a while. It's nice just to bring in some life with plants, flowers, that sort of thing. I know there's people who cut flowers with their weekly groceries, and I definitely aspire to be that girl, but it doesn't always fit in the budget. But I will say that I'm turning into slowly, very slowly, like a herb planter type girl where I want just like a little indoor herb garden on my kitchen window so I can snip off herbs while I'm cooking. I actually think I would use them, but it also just, I love the look of it. And I don't know, it just makes me like feel inspired, and I don't know, just makes me feel good when I'm in my kitchen.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like plants can really elevate a space where they sometimes make spaces look more expensive than they are, which like some plants are expensive, but not always. And like you can grow plants to be really quite large, starting from like really, really small. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And it gives me a sense of like responsibility and like pride and accomplishments when it's thriving. It doesn't always happen. And when my plants die, I often feel very sad and like a failure. So it does have the reverse effects too. But when they do thrive, man, you're like, I did that. I took care of that. Anyways, I think that's all we had. I wanted to say on the whole junk journaling thing that you were mentioning a while ago, I want to do that too. I don't know if I'd actually enjoy the process, but I have two. Tegan knows about my memory box. Literally will be out somewhere doing something. I'll be like, oh my God, I'm going to take this for my memory box. Like I'm not ashamed of it whatsoever. But I just have these two huge like boxes essentially of just stuff I've collected over the years where I feel like I need to turn them into a junk journal. So that might be a fun winter project for me this year.
I was gonna say we could have like a junk journal day where we bring our junk together and have wine.
Yeah, that sounds so fun. I love that. We could do an episode on junk journaling in case people don't know what it is.
I feel like we're both semi-perfectionists when it comes to things, so it might be a disaster. But if we're together, it could be fun.
100%. Thank you guys so much for listening. We hope this gave you some fun weekend projects maybe to tackle over the fall winter season. But we drop a new episode every single Tuesday, so make sure you subscribe on whatever app you're listening to this so you don't miss an episode. We'd also really appreciate it if you left us a review or rated the podcast. That helps us way more than you could ever know. You can also find us on social media. We're at Our Golden 20s on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest. We have Spotify playlists. We're absolutely everywhere. We also have a Patreon, which is the best way to support the podcast for as little as $2 a month. So if you do listen every week, we recommend you check us out over there. You get access to all of our episodes early as well as completely ad-free. And that is everything for today, but we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye.